We are here, and it is right now. It is the UFC 308 Fight IQ preview. We are coming to you breaking down every fight on this 13-bout slate, including, of course, one of the best fights, if not the best fight to be made in the sport right now. It is Max Holloway taking on the featherweight champ, Illa Topuria. You might know the guys sitting for me, but maybe not the regular configuration. Of course, we know Joe Sunzu. And Joey is back, but this time replacing Drake to break down all the fights with us. Thank you so much for being here. And guys, what do you think about this card? Obviously, a really good main card. Aside from the main event, which I mentioned, we have Chimaev making his long-awaited return against Robert Whittaker, a fight that was called off and now is back on. But Joey, I'll go to you first as the guest. How do you see this card, and any thoughts just in general of breaking it down and playing it for DFS?
I'll be real with you. We're going to go over the whole card. There's a range of fighters I'm actually really loving this week, and I'm actually fading the upper tier, and I actually like the 8K and below. So I think there's some definitely contrarian and leverage plays you can get to in that 8K range if everything goes the right. And as a card as a whole, hey, it's one of the better fight cards of the year. And I think we're going to see a lot of good action on the card.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get to it, but in that 8K range, a fight, at least the last time I looked, minus 600 to finish inside the distance. So lot of action down there that you need to get a piece of. Joe, how about you, my friend? How do you see this card, and how you doing?
Well, I mean, I should preface what I'm about to say by stating I've been far more vested in the gambling or the wagering aspect of MMA or of UFC than I have in DFS. I mean, it's gotten so competitive, and in all honesty, and quite frankly, I have a bankroll where I can make reasonably large wagers, but like the level of bankroll I would need to be competitive in MMEs, is much larger, and like to sustain a couple of bad cards was just getting really difficult. So with that said, it's going to be interesting because my initial builds, and I'm probably going to roll about 20 lineups out. My initial builds were stars and scrubs because there's a couple of fighters in particular that I like in the 7K range that's allowing me to get to those guys that I think are going to have a really easy time of it. So it's going to be real interesting because I know there are people who are looking at the mid-tier, but I see this, at least as it stands now, as more of a stars and scrubs build. But I'm only going to be running 20. So, as I've been running less lineups, I've been taking more stands. So I'm going to be taking a stand on a couple of fighters, and if they hit, it should be a good day for me. If not, I'm going to have far more vested in wagering.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a decent strategy, and some of those scrubs aren't really scrubs; they're just sort of underdogs. There's one in particular, former champion. I don't know if this is who you're referring to. Former champion, really longtime veteran who we will get to, who is a big underdog. But we will get to all of that before we get to the main card. Just one more piece of business. If you are looking to get some access to RotoWire, check out www.com rotowire/free. That's www.rotowire.com/free. 10 days free trial, no credit card required. Check out all of our content. NFL heating up, of course. NBA just getting going. And, of course, all the content. DFS for the postseason, for the World Series kicking off tonight, if you are interested in that. So, again, www.rotowire.com/free. 10 days free trial, no credit card required. And without further ado, we will kick off the card now as soon as I get into the lobby, which for some reason I was not in. Apologies. And Joe, I am going to read off all the salaries just to get out ahead of that. But we will go to the first fight now. It is Fardinov at 8,900 taking on Carlos Leal at 7,300. The line on this fight. First fight of the evening. It is. Oh, I am just unprepared. It is minus 225 for Fardinov, plus 185 for Carlos Leal. listed here also as Carlos Leal Miranda and Fardinov, of course. Just really intense, really committed grappler. We love those guys for DraftKings normally, as they are, really slated to put up some points if it falls right. So I'm going with Fardinov, but having said that, every second this guy is in space, you just hold your breath. He windmill strikes, he back fists, he just does everything that you don't want to see a fighter do. The reason why I am still picking him is because I think Carlos Leal stands pretty upright in the pocket with that Muay Thai style. I think Fardinov is going to be able to get to his takedowns, but again, any second that you stand in space is going to be, not so great if you're on that Fardinov money. So could definitely see some Carlos Leal getting some love here as the big underdog, as the saving money price. Especially we have a lot of big salaries here, and for the first fight, we could definitely save one. But let's go to our panel here and see what the boys think. And we will start with our guest, Joey. So how you seeing the first fight here?
I'm slightly on Fardinov, just slightly. Leal, I know Joe down here knows he's no bum. He's fought very good guys in the PFL, and I believe also in Bellator, I believe. But yeah, he's not a bum. I'm shocked that he was even on the market. The UFC called him as a replacement. It was supposed to be Rozabulov versus Fardinov on this card. And I'll give Leal this. He's live because he has power in his hands. Yeah, he does stand too high. But if Fardinov does not try to wrestle early, this fight is going to be very spicy because Leal is the better striker and could throw more volume. He could be worth a play at 7,300, especially if you're playing like those big GPP contests where you're playing multiple lines. He's definitely a good leverage play, but I'm on Fardinov. I like him by decision. And if the fight does stay close, I actually don't mind sprinkling that split decision at plus 500.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those fights where you're going to know right away. If Fardinov can't get his takedowns and you're on him, you're going to be pulling on your collar, I think, pretty early. But Joe, I think maybe just from talking a little earlier on, you may have a different play. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I'm on Leal here. I mean, I have this weird habit of building lineups when salaries drop, and I do that with just based on what I know about the fighters. And I didn't know anything about Leal, and obviously you could look at Fardinov and see some of his DraftKings scores, and I think I might have even put him in the first lineup I created. And then as the week got long, I started looking into, Leal. I mean, the fact that he fought Ray Cooper twice and won, that, he's really only lost to the same person and one was a split decision. And then I looked at Fardinov's record and reminded myself of how he got a split decision win against Nicholas Dalby in a fight that many people thought he lost.
Yeah. Well, I almost lost $500 on that, so I was like, "Oh my god!"
Prior to that, he had a grappling match against a guy named Craig Jones. Got triangle choked out in the first round. He won a grappling match against Douglas Lima. Then he had a majority draw against Elizu Delescu. He beat the ghost of Kevin Lee. So I mean, where are his good wins? I mean, okay, I'll say Brian Battle was probably a good win, and that was in December of 2022.
Short notice.
But, Leal is 3 years younger. He is not fighting bums. I'm a little worried about the short notice, but I don't think Fardinov has that much of a striking game, and I really do see this as an opportunity for Leal at that price point, both on DraftKings and in wagering, that, this is a guy worth taking a flyer on, especially, and we talked about this, I don't want to bury the lead, but especially if you're building a Stars and Scrubs type lineup, I think you could do far worse than, having Fardinov in that line. I'm sorry, having Leal in that lineup.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I do think you hit on something because, short notice, and he's got to go to Abu Dhabi. He's on the short notice, especially against a wrestler. These powerful Muay Thai guys tend to gas out anyway, so that's something else to look at. But I do agree with you. I do think it's an opportunity, but I do think that the circumstances here make it a little less of an opportunity. Like I would like it a lot more if this was maybe, more closer to neutral territory and sort of on a little bit more of a notice. But I do agree that it is an opportunity to potentially take a shot at. But we will now move to the second fight of the night, and it is Ismail Nardev at 8,300, taking on Bruno Silva at 7,900. Line on this one is Nardev at minus 170, Bruno Silva coming back plus 145. Nardev, sort of a strange option here. A guy who was cut from the UFC, last fought Sean Brady in 2020, a loss. He's got some not great. I mean, you talk about Joe, good wins. Nardev doesn't have one. He beat Bahadazara in 2019. A loss to Chance Rencounter, who, if nobody remembers him, I don't really blame you, but just sort of a tall, lanky grappler who just did exactly that and blanketed Nardev the entire fight. So not a lot of great wins for Nardev here, and not really a great striker. Leaves himself open a lot. And Bruno Silva, while not a grappler, thought of as a striker, can wrestle. We've seen it. Can scramble on the ground. We've seen it. All this is to say that I'm going to take Bruno Silva here. I don't like Nardev as a favorite in the spot. I don't really see why that's happening. Bruno Silva, I mean, say whatever you want about Chris Weidman. The one thing that he can still do is wrestle, and the one thing that he still is big and strong. And Weidman only got him once. So I'm not sure that Nardev is just going to destroy him with the grappling. I think Bruno Silva is really live here. If he can keep it on the feet, I think it's not even going to be close. And I think he's going to be able to at least compete in the grappling or at least keep himself upright. And that's going to give him a really good shot. So I actually really like Bruno Silva here. I think he's a nice play at the small dog salary there. But we will start with Joe. Joe, how you see the second fight?
Yeah, I'm pretty torn here because, Silva has been fighting good fight. I mean, kind of throw the Weidman fight out. There were like multiple eye pokes in that fight. But he's really been fighting good guys. The issue is he's 35 years old. He actually opened up as a favorite. So this has been a pretty big line flip here. Really big line flip when you think about it in a minor fight like this early on in the card. So maybe somebody knows something about Nardev. He's only 28. I mean, when he got cut from the UFC, he was like 23 years old, and he was supposed to be all that in a bag of chips. And obviously he wasn't all that or didn't turn into all that. And even had some difficult fights in, lesser promotions, which are very confusing. So I don't really know what to make of this. I mean, he is like quasi-local to the area, at least in terms of where he fights or the organization he's been fighting with. So I don't really know what to do here. I mean, I'm always very nervous when I see that big a line move on a fight that is lower down in the cards. So for that reason, and the fact that he's got a 7-year age gap on Silva, I am going to tentatively go with Nardev here, but I don't love the play, but I'll go there.
Yeah, Joe, I mean, you talk about those questionable fights. Back-to-back first-round losses in Brave FC, one submission, one knockout. Knockout was particularly bad. Just sort of got caught running in, pressuring along the fence line there. So I really do think there are question marks. I understand not being really high on Bruno Silva, so it's kind of a messy spot. But let's see if Joey has a more definitive pick here. Joey, how you see this one?
Yeah, they honestly brought this guy in because I think he's from the local area, and Bruno was supposed to be on this fight card. So they called the guy in. He's had mixed results. I think he's 3-3 in his last 6. So mixed results. As both of you guys said, he was in UFC while he was very young. He fought a very tough Sean Brady. Sean Brady pretty much opened a can on him. And, then he got his exit. But, he's slightly getting back into his rhythm. I think he's the way better grappler if he decides to do takedowns and try to clinch up. Because if you guys know, Silva has 7 sub losses. 5 of them are in round 1. I think there's a chance where this guy can get the back early. And if he gets Silva down, he's going to be live for a sub. I like his submission prop plus 300.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good play, and certainly it's the the standard way that Nardev is going to win here. I really do think that Silva has improved in his grappling since those early days, but I can definitely understand taking the Nardev shot like that. But all in all, I think that we all agree that not really very many trustworthy guys here in terms of like results or how they're going to perform. But another fight where it looks like it could score well, so probably need to have definitely some exposure there. But right now we will move on to the next fight, and we have a big line here. It is Farid Basharat 9,600 taking on Victor Yugo at 6,600. The line here is appropriately large with those salaries. It is minus 800 for Farid, plus 500 for 525. I'm sorry, for Victor Hugo Silva, and this is a fight where this looks like a dogger pass, and so for me it's just pass because I think Basharat's just going to control Victor Hugo as he was in his UFC debut there against Falcao. He did not end up winning that fight, but first round did not go very well for him. Was just controlled and taken down a lot. And Basharat, both the Basharats like to mix their striking with their grappling and really pour on the pressure. And against another Muay Thai striker here, I just don't know if that's going to be enough. Nova Unyao guy, working with Aldo, you would think takedown defense, but he was taken down by Falcao in that fight, as I say, in the first round there. And Basharat is going to pour on that pressure. I don't like this fight for DraftKings, as I say, just because that salary is way too big for Farid, and there's going to be a lot better plays in the card in basically every range, I think, no matter where you want to look. So this is just not a fight that I'm interested in unless you want the dog, and I don't really see much value in that, quite frankly. So I'm probably going to sit this one out at DraftKings, but my pick is Basharat, but let's see if the boys have different takes here, and we'll start with Joey. Joey, how do you see this fight?
How I personally see it, this is a pass type of fight.
Yeah.
I think the line, like I see minus 650 written down for me. I'm like, yeah, no. I like Basharat. You're a great prospect, but you're not no 7-1 favorite because, Hugo is 1-0 in the UFC, but he's got to be careful because he is a very good BJJ specialist. Dana White Contender Series, I think he won by like some kind of knee bar or leg lock, and he made it look easy with no problem. So Basharat would probably have the minus P's and Q's because just probably play in the guard and probably play control over damage. I think Basharat wins. I don't think he pays it off. If you're the type to think Hugo can get a wild Hail Mary submission, he has 10 wins by submission. So that's maybe a light entry. If he hits, then yeah, you're definitely going to be contrarian. But I'm more looking towards fading Basharat for DFS and then just playing his decision at minus 160.
Yeah, the thing about these Brazilians coming in on these cards, they're heavy underdogs, but they're really experienced in MMA. So they have a lot of fights. So if you want to take a look at it that way, especially Basharat, who, as you said, Joey, is a prospect going up against the guy with all this experience, maybe that is the direction to look. I personally agree with you, though. I am not really big on this fight for DFS purposes. Joe, how do you see this one?
Yeah, so this is the better of the two Basharats by far. Mm-hmm. Also, I think this might actually be a step down for him in competition. So I think the only reason they booked this fight is because Yugo, for some reason, asked for it. It's certainly not a step up fight for Basharat, and I think he's got a really high fight IQ. I heard he spent some time at ATT to kind of round out his training. I really do like him here. I think he has the potential. It's always hard to lay that kind of number on a fight. I think he's fairly safe. Like if you're going to play cash, there's a way that you could barbell this card and have a really good cash lineup. I haven't decided whether I'm going to do that yet, but I really do like Basharat a lot here. I think this is honestly going to be a pretty easy fight for him. So whether he earns his price point is a completely different question. But I do think he's like one of your safest guys for cash. And if you're building a cash lineup, you could do far worse than combine him and one of the title fighters. So don't want to bury the lead, but yeah, I'll take Basharat.
Yeah, I do think that that's going to be the common thing here is Basharat, but maybe not the best scoring fight. 9,600 is just a really big number, and we have a lot of fights to get to. 13 fights. Maybe if we were looking at a 12, 11 fight card, be a little bit different. But as played, I think the better strategy is to manage your exposure on Basharat there. But he should get the victory. But coming up next is it should be an interesting fight with everybody's favorite meme fighter, at least at heavyweight. But it is Kennedy Injuku at 9,700 taking on Huggy Bear, Beast Boy, Chris Barnett at 6,500. Line on this fight, again, appropriately wide for those numbers. It is minus 800 for Injuku, plus 550 for Chris Barnett. And going to start this one off by saying Barnett was not quite as wide, but kind of ridiculously wide last week before having to pull out that fight against Junior Tafa. I was going to pick him in that fight just because I hate Tafa as a big favorite against anybody. And I feel like I would have been justified. And we saw how much, struggle he had against the short notice replacement that they did bring in. And Barnett is, like I said, he's kind of a meme fighter. He has that spinning heel kick win against what's his name there, who's no longer in the UFC. Vellante. Who could forget John Vellante? How dare I? But I like speed in the heavier weight classes. So I don't hate Barnett, especially against a guy like Injuku, who's going to start a little bit slower. And Barnett's a tough guy. He was really getting beat up in that fight against the former middleweight. I'm forgetting names now.
Collier.
Yes, Chris Collier. Jake Collier. Jake Collier, right? Yeah. So I think he's a little bit liver, of course, than that minus 800. But so this might be another one that I'm dogger passing just because Injuku does start a little bit slow, and I do think Barnett is tough. So this is another dogger pass for me. I wouldn't stake a claim on Barnett, but if you are looking to, let's say you're like Joe and you really do want Basharat in there, you can do a lot worse than Barnett in a GPP lineup, especially for heavyweight. Just as a general rule, a heavyweight fight should probably never be this wide, especially at the lower limits here. So yeah, I'm going to take Chris Barnett, and no matter what, we're probably going to have fun watching it. But I do think that Barnett is certainly a little bit liver than that plus 550 line there. And I think he's going to be worth the squeeze a little bit. But let's see if the fellas agree. Joe, how do you see this one?
Yeah, so I'm on Kennedy here. I don't know that Chris Barnett could actually reach Kennedy's face with a kick. The height disadvantage is so great. I did not watch weigh-ins, but I suspect that Barnett probably outweighs Kennedy by at least 35 pounds.
Yeah.
Maybe more. And at game time, I wouldn't be surprised if Barnett was, 5'7", 300. Once he rehydrates and has his nightly feed on. So I like Kennedy here. I don't know whether he's going to earn his DraftKings salary or not. Again, I don't see him as safe of a cash play as Basharat. And if there was no Basharat, I would say that he's a safe cash play. But I feel a lot more comfortable with Basharat in a cash lineup. And again, who knows what's going to happen? This is, like you said, a weird heavyweight fight. If you want to take a flyer on Barnett and GPPs, I get it. I wouldn't touch him in cash. This fight could end pretty early. Who knows? But the pick is Kennedy.
Yeah, it's always tough for me with Injuku. A couple fights he'll look pretty good, and then a couple fights he'll look like he goes to sleep. So it's a little tough for me. And to definitely take your point, Joe, is Barnett. The reason why he's always the big underdog in these fights is he's always going to be undersized. in these fights. But like I said, I don't mind the speed, and we do always like that Barnett, despite being the heavier man, that we'll say diplomatically, always does seem to have an athleticism advantage. So is interesting, and I do agree that we take a flyer here. But let's hear from the last man here, Joey. How do you see this fight?
Yeah, so the overall size difference was absolutely atrocious.
Yeah.
At weigh-ins. Kennedy just looking down at him. Barnett's trying to get on his tippy toes. I'm like, oh God. So but do we really know what we're gonna get from Kennedy? We've seen against Kutalaba. Once he did let his hands go, he could get somebody out of there. Or we've seen him against OSP. Good round one, and then he's defensive, low volume. Who knows how this fight's gonna go? Kennedy actually did look good on the scale. He was about 241, so heavier than I thought.
Wow.
But yeah, so Kennedy could get a first round knockout if Barnett really tries to go for it. Or I'm probably not playing this as a DFS play, but I might sneakily play Kennedy by decision at plus 450.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good shout. With these heavyweight fights in the decision, you're always going to get some of these juicier lines in a fight like this. Like I said, I especially like it because Kennedy slow starter, Burnett tough, so we could definitely see it go the distance. But I do like the sneak, but again, it's heavyweight, so I mean, I like to call these fights big man fall down, go boom fights. I mean that's just sort of how it works. And we could see it at any time. So definitely some exposure to both, but I do think this is one of those rare instances where you have a guy in the 6K range where you do want to take a shot at, especially if you're looking for some of those other big prices. But right now, we will move on down the card here, and it is Abus Magomedov at 8,400 taking on Bruno Ferreira at 7,800. Line on this fight is it is Abus at minus 150, Bruno Ferreira at plus 130, and I know Abus looked a little better against we like saying the ghost of, and that certainly applies to Warley Alves. Finally, we saw Abus just really commit to his grappling, which was good to see. But he couldn't get Warley out of there, which is kind of troubling to see, and then which resulted in him getting tired and kind of having to grit his way through the third round. I mean, he got it done, but against a better fighter, Willie, and Bruno Ferreira is certainly a better fighter, very explosive, very tough. You always get that sense that if you do extend him, he's going to gas out just because he's so muscle bound, and that's a concern. But I don't think he's useless on the ground. I do think he can scramble a little bit, and I think if they do take it there, it's going to be more interesting. I got to go for Ferreira here just because, I'm a guy who never got the bad taste out of his mouth with that Strickland fight where he has the really good first round and then just falls apart and just loses the fight. And Ferreira, if you're falling apart on Strickland's pressure, you're going to fall apart on Bruno Ferreira's pressure, who is way more powerful, way more prone to a knockout. I believe all of his fights in the UFC have ended by first round knockout. And he's been, except for, I was going to say he's been the one doing the hammering, but except for the Ruzaboa fight. But it is every fight ending by first round KO, 3-1 in those instances. So probably going to end quickly. And in that scenario, I just can't pick a boost to stand up to a guy that dangerous. So I got to go Bruno Ferreira. That's going to be my pick here. But we'll start with Joey. What do you see on this fight?
So anyone that doesn't follow me on Twitter, I always post out who my Planet Flag of the week is for the show. My Planet Flag was one of my favorite prospects, Bruno the Hawk Ferreira.
The Hawk.
The Hawk. He's a bad boy, man. But no, so if the fight goes longer, could a boost maybe extend this fight with his combinations? Yes, that's very true. Maybe get like a later round 2, maybe round 3 finish. And at 84, he should get close enough to be paying that off. But I just like the upside of Ferreira. A boost has to be careful because Ferreira is also a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So He can shoot one bad entry and Ferreira can grab a neck. But I'm making a bold statement. I think Ferreira is live within the first 60 seconds to flatline a boost.
Ooh.
Absolutely flatline. And TC, I see you, my boy. So, and he knows Ferreira's going to get done. I'm looking at playing maybe round one. I think I saw it plus like 750 round one for knockout.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, with these Bruno Ferreira fights, you have to assume that it could end really quickly. And like I said, and it sounds like you agree, I can't see a boost standing up to that kind of power. If he does it here, this could be on the other side. This could be a sort of a career-defining performance for him because he had a lot of hype when he came in and sort of disappointed. And then he's coming off that victory where it's like, okay, but it was Warley Alves and you still didn't really put him away. So this could be a defining performance for him, but I got to see it first. So I think Ferreira is the play there, and I certainly like the strength. We love strength and conviction on this show, absolutely. But Joe, we'll go to you next. How you see this one?
So without a lot of conviction, I'm going to pick a boost. I mean, he's got a 4-inch height advantage. I do think that especially if this fight gets out of the first round, this could be an interesting fight to live bet, actually. 4 fights, Silva's not made it out of the first round. He's won 3, he's lost 1. I think this is a great GPP fight. Ferreira early, perhaps a boost late. I do have, for some reason, a suspicion that this fight will get out of the first round. But you can certainly play. Look, you could even play, at least on DraftKings Sportsbook, you could play the first 60 seconds. Like the fight ends in the first 60 seconds. That might not be a bad way to go because that's got to be, if you said first round KO is 20 something to 1, or what'd you say it was? Fight ends in the first 60 seconds. It's got to even be that much better. Let's see if I could pull it up real quick.
Yeah, I got it. So either fighter to win in 60 seconds or less plus 800. If you think it's Ferreira, he's plus 1,800, a boost plus 15.
Okay. Doesn't sound horrible to me. That could be a way to go. So, again, it's not with a strong amount of conviction, but I'm going to pick a boost.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of these fights, you could pick one way and then be crying because your fighter put up a big goose egg. That's just kind of the nature of these. But I do think that you have to sort of lean Ferreira, although I do understand the Abus love with the grappling. I just have to see more of it, but we will see.
What's going to be funny is, there's going to be some idiot on DraftKings that's going to stack this fight because this is the worst fight to stack.
Yeah,
because you've got 2 guys with high ceilings and no floors.
Yep.
But I could see some idiot's going to stack this fight, and it'll be really interesting.
I thought you were going to say it's going to be one of those bets that they put on the screen at the broadcast where like somebody bet 500 to win, whatever, some huge amount on some ridiculous play. But yeah, I either way, I do think that definitely a GPP fight. There's no question about that, and definitely a binary fight, meaning one guy is going to take it over, and the other guy is going to look pretty bad. So hopefully the axe falls in the direction that you're going for on this one. But we will move on to the next fight. It is, let's see, getting messed up here. Okay, Mike Dick Oralby at 9,000, taking on Matus Rebecky at 7,100. Line on this fight, it is Oralby at minus 310. Rebecky coming back at plus 260. And I'm going to start this one with a little pat on my own back here. Was very heavy on Carlos Diego Ferreira in his fight against Rebecky just because I felt like somebody who could out-grapple him and last through the big maelstrom that comes is just going to get him tired because he's a big, strong guy who swings big, and that's what happened. Life-changing beating handed out, which also you have to sort of play into this fight because who knows? I mean, I'm sure he's never taken a beating anywhere close to that, in his life. So who knows how he recovers from that? And Oralby is certainly not as athletic as a guy like Fara, but certainly a very strong grappler in his own right. Powerful also, and I was never high on Rebecky. I thought he was like sort of a one-trick pony with like a regional scene style of that pressure grappling, sort of like the the big clubbing overhand pressure grappling wrestler guy. Yeah, and so the minute somebody could just exploit that or stand up against it, he just kind of folded. And I kind of see the same thing here. I love Oralby at that price in the low 9,000s. I think this is a really good spot for him to put up a big number here. 102, 105 plus. I really like it. Oralby, we know how committed to the grappling he is. Even he had a tougher spot in his last one against a really good and tough opponent in Ellsbrenner, but he never got off the pressure. He never, even when, Brenner would stuff a takedown or something, he never got discouraged. He was always right in there. So, I mean, I like Oralby a lot. I think he's a really tough guy, too. So he could stand up to any early pressure that Rebecky might bring. And, one of my planted flags as far as favorites go, for sure, a guy that you can anchor your lineup around if you're starting with favorites, most certainly. But we will start with Joe for this one. How do you see this fight?
Yeah, I don't have any additional analysis to add on top of what you just stated, so I'm just going to state my pick is Oralby.
Yeah, I think Oralby is. It's funny because Rebecky was the guy, and now it seems like he's on his way out. Like that now they're giving him another prospect. It's like, okay, sink or swim. Here you go. And I think he's going to sink. But we will ask Joey what he thinks and see if he has a different opinion. Joey, how you see this fight?
I'll try to make it short too. I'm on Oralby. The method of theory, I'm still scratching my head on. Could he potentially TKO him maybe round 2, round 3? That's very live. Rebecky does slow down. Rebecky's never been submitted, but Oralby, he is strong enough to get to the back of the neck potentially, but I don't know what by theory of method. I think he is going to have to survive early because Rebecky's going to try to throw the whole kitchen fence at him. And after maybe first round, maybe you can get an even better betting line on Oralby. And I think Oralby's going to win, but I want to say a decision, but if it's close, I don't know if I'm going to play him at 91. I'm kind of chasing, like, people are going to maybe try to finish the fights early but besides that, I like Oralby. I think he's a safe playing cash, too.
I haven't had a lot of luck with Polish fighters either. I mean, the guy comes from a country that has no ice cubes because the inventor died. I mean, come on. Seriously.
What? I think that's a Polish joke. I think that's a Polish joke.
No way.
Yeah.
And Joe, we don't take that kind of discrimination here. So
that's why there's no ice in Poland.
Very offended.
That and the fact that the hockey team drowned during spring training.
Oh, right, yeah.
And
I heard there was a submarine with screen doors. I heard
that too. And
yeah, absolutely.
It's why Jesus wasn't born in Poland. They couldn't find 3 wise men and a virgin. I mean,
that one's getting a little deeper. But we will cut the Polish joke short right there. I do think Oralby is the play. Just the question of how strongly you want to go there. I say pretty strongly. Joey says not so much. Maybe you end up in the middle, and you see what happens there. But the next fight coming up, we have Jeff Neal at 9,200 taking on the veteran I spoke of earlier, Rafael Dos Anjos at the round number of 7,000. Line on this fight, it is Jeff Neal at minus 280. Rafael Dos Anjos coming back plus 240. And I think the analysis here is pretty simple, and it's that if Rafael Dos Anjos can't out-grapple you, he doesn't beat you. And Jeff Neal doesn't get out-grappled. He didn't get out-grappled by Bilal Muhammad, but Bilal Muhammad 0 for 7 on those takedowns. Jeff Neal giving Shavkat Rakhmonov by far his toughest fight in the UFC. So I love RDA. I always have. It's going to be really tough for RDA. to get his game going. When RDA is on, it looks really pretty because he mixes his boxing and his wrestling in so well. But if he can't get a takedown here, I think it's going to be really tough for him in space. I think this fight has a tendency, has a chance to look like the Tony Ferguson fight back in the day, where RDA just didn't really have a lot of answers in space. A guy who's never really been all that successful at 170 pounds anyway. And on top of that, this is not the best matchup for him. So I think Jeff Neal, pretty good cash play, sturdy at his salary. I think that RDA is pretty tough. He's going to throw back with him. I'm going to lead to a lot of strikes landed. Going to lead to some grappling scenarios, and you're going to have enough, I think, to get yourself in the 88 to 92 range on Jeff Neal there. But he is my pick for the fight. But we will start with Joe on this one. Joe, how you see it?
Actually, Joey.
Oh, okay, Joey, how you see it?
Okay, I'm playing neither side for DFS personally, but if you're trying to get to a cash play, as you said, I think Neal can be safe-ish. I actually see this fight going to distance. If you don't like neither side for a bet, you can get fight goes to distance minus 160. So it's a decent little line right there. Or I really think Neal just wins by decision. You can get that at plus 125.
Yeah, I actually didn't see the line that good, but I in my article I wrote Jeff Neal by decision. I had it at plus 105, but if you can find 125, I would say jump all over that.
Yeah,
that seems pretty good to me. Joe, what do you think? How do you see this one?
Yeah, I don't see this as a very playable fight in DFS. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd love to give RDA a shot, but your point was made early on, Chris, that if he can't out-grapple you, if he can't take you down, I think it's going to be very difficult. I don't think he's fast enough against Neal to actually outstrike him or to even remain competitive. I think he could stay in the fight by just like trying to grapple, even if he's not successful. But Neal's got the faster hands. He probably has a pretty good game plan coming into this fight. I guess he needs a win. I think he's coming off 2 losses, right? So yeah, I've got to go with Neal here, but I don't think this is a very playable fight in DFS. I don't even know if it's bettable at this price. I'd love to see some late money come in on RDA, and then maybe this fight would be more bettable. But I don't hate the idea that this fight goes to decision. It's only 3 rounds, and making that type of wager. Neal by decision, I could see that happening. So, especially if you're getting one plus 125, yeah, go there.
Yeah, I just locked it in.
Yep.
Nice. Good. We're making live reads on the podcast here, folks.
Yes, sir.
You got to get in on it. But Joe, your point is well taken. Jeff Neal, I think his defining characteristic is just how quick he is, and I think that's really going to wreak havoc on RDA here. So I do think Jeff Neal is the play. And again, just sort of how much exposure you want at that price point. But I do think Jeff Neal is the play. And now we get to the fight we mentioned earlier. It is Ibo Aslan at 8,200 taking on Rafael Squa at 8,000. I have no idea if I pronounced that right. But the line on this fight is Squa at minus 125. Aslan coming back at plus 105. This was the fight that I think Joey was referencing with the lower 8,000 range. It was the fight I was referencing when I talked about a minus 600 inside the distance prop. And these guys are just going to swing hammers at each other. I'm going Squa here, and it's because I think that Ibo Aslan is just really flat-footed. I think Squa is going to have an athleticism advantage. He's going to have a grappling advantage too, even though he might not utilize it, but it is there if he needs it. Aslan just really kind of not enough tools for me in a spot like this. I mean, before he knocked out everyone's favorite nickname fighter, the Pleasure Man, Turkalj. Turkalj was having a decent first round, really sticking him with the jab, and just sort of rocking him back in his chair. And I think Squa can do much the same thing here. Aslan's got power if he can get inside, but I don't really think he's going to have the chance to work his hands the way he wants. So my pick is Squa, but this time we will start with Joe Sun Tzu. How do you see this fight?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I haven't thought a whole lot about this fight, but kind of looking at the metrics, I likely agree with you, Chris. I mean, undefeated Brazilian. Maybe he hasn't fought the greatest competition. He's 34 years old. He is 11-0, but he's also 6'4". We have one. At least we have one fight in the UFC from Ebo. The guy certainly has a good chemist on his staff. He is 6 years younger. He's only an inch shorter. I don't know, man. I see this as kind of a toss-up. I guess I because of that, I see it as a GPP fight. I'll defer to you, Chris. I'll go with your play here, but it's not very enthusiastic. It's more like I didn't really know which way to go on this fight. I didn't look at it too closely because of that. You've got two guys with one loss between them, both fighting for the most part inferior competition. One guy fighting out of Turkey, one guy fighting out of Brazil. The distance from Turkey to Abu Dhabi is a lot closer than Brazil to Abu Dhabi. Maybe that's a factor here. I guess I'll go with your pick, but it's not with a lot of conviction.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough fight because, again, we have, to your point, Joe, we have two relative unknowns, and it's a fight that's probably going to finish, so you need it. But it's tough to get kind of. I mean, I am a little more sure of Squa just because of the things that I mentioned, and like if you can't look good against Mr. Pleasure Man over there, it's really hard for me to believe in what you've got going forward. But we will see how Joey sees this one. What do you got for this one?
So the funny thing, we keep talking about the Pleasure Man. That fight happened not too far from me and Joe's area in Atlantic City. I was at the fight card, and I was actually intrigued because I couldn't get a good read on Ebo. I was like, okay, I know he lost by submission to him before. It's a rematch. And everyone I know had first-round tickets from him win by knockout. And, yeah, I had the knockout. So I was like, I was sweating when it got into round 3. I'm like, dude, if you just don't knock this pretty boy out, can I cash my ticket, and then I'm good. But he eventually did it in round 3. But as you said, he was getting touched. His eye was a mess, personally. And I don't know if any of you guys noticed. You know who one of Squa's main trading partners are?
I don't.
Pereira?
Yeah, Jalt and Almeida.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah.
So, yes, I know this Squa guy already has knockouts, but if you're telling me your main training partner is Almeida, you know you're getting your grappling in.
Yeah.
I actually like this play as GPP. I'm going Squa, and I'm actually looking at his by submission prop plus 700.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the grappling would be a factor. I didn't know that about the training partner. That's interesting and kind of makes me feel a little better even than I did about it here now. So I do think Squa is the play, but either one of these guys can fall. It's going to be a hectic fight, but I am on Squa as well. But, oh no, what happened there? Wait. Everybody stop. Sorry, my browser just went kablooey on me. So give me 1 second here to just get my DraftKings back up. Everybody talk amongst yourselves for about 2 seconds.
What browser do you use? Do you use like a third rate, like offshore browser? Like
no. Offshore. What's the offshore browser? I know I use
no idea, dude.
But
I don't know what you guys. I don't know what you guys get in Central Jersey. I don't know if you if you have access to like Microsoft and Google.
The issue is I won't take any Central Jersey slander. Let's get that straight. But the issue is I have a touchpad and it goes wacky on me all the time. I hate it. I should get an external mouse.
By the way, we might be in a podcast history moment here, having three guys from New Jersey on a pod.
Yeah,
that's true.
Like, I can't recall whether that's ever happened before.
It's funny because
in the annals of MMA podcasting, have there ever been three Jersey guys on a pod?
when Joey said Atlantic City by me and my and Joe's area, I was going to raise my hand. Like, yeah, I'm 40 minutes from Atlantic City. You know.
Yeah. So I would say Joey is in South Jersey. You're in Central Jersey, and I'm in North Jersey.
Joey, where in South Jersey are you?
Not too far from like Newfield-ish, Franklinville.
Okay, yeah, I'm not really sure with that. I went to school down there at Rowan, so I don't know where you are in relation to that.
I'm not far from Rowan. I'm like 20 minutes or so.
Okay, yeah. So
is that an accredited university or Rowan or
Rowan? Yeah, it was Glassboro State before that.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
I've heard of that. Glassboro
actually
State.
gets a mention in The Sopranos. So
okay, very good.
But yeah, so I will move on, but first I wanted to say we have a very special guest tonight. Dana White dropping in to say hello.
Wow, Dana, hit us up with some tickets, man.
Yeah, I mean,
power slap.
I mean, I kind of hate you, but if you like the podcast, then I like you again. So
I can't do power slap. I just think it's brutal. I can't watch it.
I tried to go on for season 1, but I never got a call back.
Really? Yeah. You wanted to do it?
Yeah, I actually tried. Yeah, they had me on a whole Zoom call.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Are you just simply getting knocked unconscious
at some point?
No, I'm saying I grew up boxing, so
okay. Yeah. So you've taken hits to the head before.
I took hits. Yeah. Okay. Maybe not the smartest idea of me doing it, but I took some hits. Yeah.
By the way, how has Paige Van Zandt fallen? I mean, she goes from UFC contract to bare knuckle fighting to OnlyFans to now like power slap. Come on.
Hey, she looks a lot better at power slap, but she just had a draw.
Yeah.
I mean, she went out, she bought herself a pair of enhancements. Yep. Oh my God. Like what happened to Paige Van Zandt? Does she even have ink now? Did she get tattoos? I can't remember. But so she didn't win. She had a draw in her power slap fight?
Yeah, she had a draw. They had like penalties each side, and it was a draw.
Oh, bummer. Okay. God, I feel so bad for her.
So if our audience will indulge me just a little bit, I need to get a little more information because Joey, do you remember when Eric Spicely said that he was going to do it, and they offered him like $2,100 or something?
Yeah, the guy that was like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy trying to offer him to do power slap.
Yeah. I was curious if you could comment on, did they offer you a salary there or not?
No, they pretty much told me I'd have to pretty much do like the whole open tryout thing. If I did get the call to go in, then I'd have to be in a weight class.
Okay, yeah.
They pay those guys nothing. I mean, it's insane.
See, the seasons they definitely gotten a lot better from what I heard, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, that would have been interesting if you got further into the belly of the beast to report to us about.
I would at least want to do one. Just win, lose, or draw.
Yeah. But that is definitely interesting. If you ever do get the call there, you're gonna have to let us know. But
most definitely, bro.
Yeah.
If that was the real Dana, hit me up.
Sign him up. That's right. But
how you doing, Chris? You get back in?
No. Yeah, I'm back in. And actually, before we continue, we are actually going to take a short break for the audio-only podcast listeners, but we will be right back. And we're back. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. We are now going to get into the pay-per-view card of this fight. It is Shara Bullet Magomedov at 8,600, taking on Armen Petrosyan at 7,600. Line here, it is Shara Bullet minus 180, Armen Petrosyan plus 150. And I don't have a ton to say here except that it's two kickboxers who are going to kickbox each other. Petrosyan does have a little bit of grappling. We could see it. But I'm just not very interested in Shara Bullet. I think he's sort of an overhyped meme fighter who doesn't do a whole lot. He's the guy who fights with one eye, and so he's kind of an intriguing story there. Can only fight in Abu Dhabi or similar places because of the fact that he's got one eye and he can't get licensed by commissions. So make of that what you will. His last fight, opponent just wouldn't cut him off on the cage. But he doesn't do anything really that special to me. for that reason, I'm just going to take Petrosyan because I think it's a dog or pass, and I don't think the fight finishes. So I'm going to go with the dog here. Not really a super strong read here, and honestly, not really a good fight to have this far down the card. I understand that the UFC likes this guy for whatever reason. They think he's got a story they can sell maybe, but I'm totally not that interested in him as a fighter. But maybe these guys see it a little differently, and we'll start with Joey. Joey, how do you see this fight?
So, as you said, 2-point fighters. I know Petrosyan's more with the kicks more. Magomedov does try to throw over looping hands, try to hit over top. I think this fight personally goes to decision. You can get that at minus 250. It's a decent line. I'm going Magomedov. I think he might have the bigger moments in the fight. You can get his decisions plus 125, but I honestly see this fight as a split, and you can get the split at plus 300.
Wow. Yeah, no, I like that. Kind of, I was going to say, ballsy, but maybe not, because anything that goes to a decision that's relatively close, especially these days in the UFC, is live to go to a split decision. Mm-hmm. So certainly something to take a look at there. Joe, what about you? Do you have a strong read here, or are you just kind of chilling out?
I don't have a strong read. I just think that this is a good matchup for Petrosyan. Finally, he gets a guy that's not going to try to take him down, and he can actually even maybe institute some wrestling here, because I don't think Sharo would expect it. And of the two, he's got more wrestling chops than Sharo does. So what I would do is why put yourself in any danger at all? Just go out there and take him down. Do like a Holly Holm, Megan Anderson type of thing, right? Mm-hmm. Where you're not known for wrestling, or Chakugian versus the other Shevchenko. You go out and you just take that person down, because even though you don't have a lot of wrestling, you have more than the other guys. So I think this is a decent matchup for Petrosyan, and he's a dog. So let's go Petrosyan. Might be worth a bet too.
Yeah, I kind of see it the same way, Joe. I think this is a perfect spot for a dog who's not going to get finished and is going to get his opportunity to stand at range and maybe wrestle if he wants. So I agree. I think Petrosyan is the play. Before we move on, I just want to say that if you are in here, thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. It does help out a whole lot. But we move on down the card. Right now it is Lerone Murphy at 8,900 taking on Dynamite Dan Ige at 7,300. Line on this one is Lerone Murphy minus 250, Dan Ige plus 210. And I really think that just as like an overall prospect, Lerone Murphy's one of the better ones we've seen in quite some time. He can do a little bit of everything. He can grapple. He can wrestle. He's got fast hands. He can strike going backwards. He can pressure. Really sort of a jack of all trades, and does everything well too, and is fast to boot. Dan Ige, kind of the same kind of fighter, but not as skilled. So if I see a Dan Ige as a lesser Lerone Murphy, I'm certainly going to take Lerone Murphy here. I like him in this spot. I really do think he has the advantage everywhere. Dan Ige, a scrapper, as I said, can do a little bit of everything. Can grapple. Came on in the UFC, kind of just showcasing his hands, but certainly can grapple and wrestle as well. But again, I think Lerone Murphy is just going to have it everywhere, just be a little better everywhere. And so I think this is his fight. And 8,900, certainly a decent line to take, but we will see how these guys think. And I believe we'll start with Joey first. Joey, how do you see this one?
So how I honestly see it, to me, it's a fade on both. If you need to get down to salary, if you think Dos Anjos can get to the grappling, can get some takedowns, then he's very, very live at his tag. I just don't see him getting close enough to actually getting opportunities for takedowns. I think Murphy's is going to keep him at range, hit him with 1-2s and kicks the whole time, and maybe even Murphy tries to clinch some takedowns. I think he's going to be a bigger, stronger fighter. And I think the fight does go to distance. You can parlay that with another fight to go distance. This fight is at minus 300. I like Murphy by decision minus 160.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout as well. Remembering Murphy kind of broke on the scene. Like he had that draw against Tukagov, which is, and then it just wins straight down the card after that. The really impressive win against Barboza, where he did a bunch of everything, 220 significant strikes with the 4 takedowns there. Certainly, obviously, this one not a 5-round fight, but really did have all his skills on display. And I think he is a similarly. I like him a little bit better than Joey, just because I think he can sort of get his game going. But I definitely understand if we like some other favorites around the card. My trackpad once again not cooperating. But
Dude, you're falling apart, man.
What's that?
You're falling apart.
I am. Well, I really next time I see you guys, I'm gonna have an external mouse because it's enough already. But enough of my sob story. We will move down the card. It is.
I didn't get it back.
Not to Joe. I'm sorry. That's what you were referencing when you said it's falling apart.
Okay. So I like Murphy quite a bit here. I think he's peaking at the right time. What really doesn't make sense about this fight to me is I honestly thought that the UFC owed Dan Ige one for stepping up on a few hours notice and, performing, reasonably well against Diego Lopes. So I don't really understand this at all. Instead of putting him on the card in Vegas, which is where he really wanted to fight, we're going to let you fly halfway around the world to Abu Dhabi to fight a killer who's 12-0-1, who's peaking, who's a solid prospect in the weight class. I don't get this at all. I honestly don't. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. What is the UFC doing here? This is certainly not a favor fight for Dan Ige. So I like Murphy a lot. The question is, can he get the finish? I think he might be able to knock him down, but Dan Ige is a tough guy. The other thing with Ige is, obviously based on his nickname, 50K Dan Ige, he's looking to scrap. So I don't think he's going to be conservative. So if he fights to win a bonus, I could certainly see him getting finished. So I like Murphy here quite a bit. I think the odds are kind of getting really high to bet, but I do like Murphy. Maybe you could use him as a parlay piece. I like him a fair amount. So give me Murphy.
Yeah, kind of same kind of thing there. I do agree that the line is getting a little bit too wide, but I still think you can squeeze out some profit in Murphy if you do hurry up. And speaking of fights that we may not want to target because they might move a little slowly, it is, oh my goodness, Magomed Ankalaev at 9,400 taking on Alexander Raikage at 6,800. Line on this fight, minus 370 Ankalaev, plus 295 Raikage. And the first thing we need to get out of the way is I don't know why Ankalaev would take another fight. I don't know why they would make him take another fight. He is the rightful next shot at the title, and he should be having it, not fighting a guy who just got viciously knocked out. But hey, what are we going to say? Except in relation to a DFS for this fight, and this is just going to be 2 slow kickboxers poking at each other. Magomed Ankalaev will wrestle if he really has to. If somebody puts him in trouble, he'll wrestle as sort of a last resort. We saw that against Jan Blachowicz. He's not going to wrestle unless he has to. And he'll get his knockouts against fighters who are just really reckless and come into him, like your Johnny Walkers, like your Ivan Kutalavas. But this kind of fight against a defensively sound fighter in Raikage, I really don't see a lot going on in this fight. This is on a pay-per-view. I mean, this is like you get up and go get a sandwich fight if you want, if you're so inclined, or if you need to use the bathroom. I really don't think a lot's going to go on here, but I do like Ankalaev to just be the slicker boxer here and get it done and be slightly more active, which is a sentence you don't usually associate with Ankalaev, but I think with Raikage, he will get it done. And we're going to start with Joe first. Joe, how do you see this one?
Yeah, well, my hope is that someone gets in Ankalaev's ear and says, look at what happened last time. You've got the number 7th ranked fighter that jumped ahead of you and got a title fight. Why do you think that is? It's because you're boring as F and no one wants to watch you fight. Do you what do you want? If you lose this fight, you could conceivably get cut.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
which would be outrageous to think about. Right. but like you got to do something here. You've got all the skills. I think you got Raikage beat everywhere, right? If you choose to engage. So I would hope that maybe somebody gets into his head, translates our podcast into Russian and says, hey, dude, like this is what you got to do here. I mean, it's embarrassing that the number 7 guy got the opportunity to get the living shit kicked out of him by Pereira. Like that should have been you, and maybe that fight would have went differently. But like, you're one fight away and a bad haircut from getting, just sent your pink slip. So I'm going to take Ankalaev here. I don't know that I don't like this fight for DraftKings, but I'm tempted to bet it. I need to see where the line falls and if any late money comes in on Radic. But I'm going to pick Ankalaev here.
Yeah, I think we're talking about decision props for fighters, and I don't know what Ankalaev's is, but if there was any time to take it, I would say that Ankalaev's is probably pretty good here. Not a finisher. I mean, we associate these Russian grapplers with submission artists. Ankalaev doesn't even have a submission to his name. When he would wrestle more on the regional scene, it would just be to beat guys up, and he just certainly hasn't been doing that lately. Maybe the Paul Craig finish scared him, and maybe I don't know, man. Maybe he doesn't want to grapple anymore. Who knows? But I do think that this is going to be kind of a boring fight. And your point's an interesting one, Joe, because these guys that they don't like, that's just what they do. They put them in fights for them to potentially lose, and then when they do, they're out the door fairly quickly. But Ankalaev is the play. Certainly not the best fight, but hopefully he can get the job done in semi-convincing fashion and then maybe get his well-deserved title shot. But right now, we will move on to the co-main event of the evening. It is, as I said, in the open, the return of Khamzat Chimaev at 8,700, taking on Robert the Reaper Whittaker at 7,500. Line on this fight, Chimaev minus 220. Whittaker plus 185, and should open with this since it might not be immediately obvious, but this is a 5-round fight. No title at stake here, nothing like that, but this one is going 5 rounds, and I got to be honest, I don't understand this line. I don't understand how you can make a Chimaev a decent-sized favorite against a really skilled fighter. I know that Whittaker hasn't really looked himself as late, but with Chimaev, I mean, we can recap it quickly. All the illnesses that he had, the fact that he couldn't train for a while because he was getting too tired. And we saw we've seen it in all his fights, but most recently in the Usman fight, as soon as it got out of the first round, Usman kind of took over the fight. If that went 5 rounds, I don't think there's a person alive who thinks Usman would not have won it. So that's where we are. And this one is going 5 rounds against the guy notoriously tough to put away. I know that Dricus du Plessis did it, but his success continues to confound me in the UFC, much to Drake's delight. I'm sure when he watches this, I'm sure he will crack a smile. But I just think taking this into deep waters, unless Chimaev gets a takedown and finishes him, how is he going to win if it extends? And Robert Whittaker is still the guy, historically, classically, really difficult to take down. We go back to those fights against Yoel Romero where you just could not get him off his feet. The fights against I'm forgetting names today. It's the Brazilian grappler who was big in 185, alligator, crocodile.
Jacare?
Jacare. I'm so sorry, Jacare. Yeah, Jacare. We saw the takedown defense there. But yeah, I really think I'm gonna go ahead and take a strong lean here and say that I think Whittaker has to be your play at this price. I really don't see how you can trust Chimaev, but we will see if the fellas disagree. And we're gonna start with Joey T. I had a couple of rhymes there. That was pretty nice. Joey, how do you see this fight?
That was actually some good rhymes. Before I do that, I'm gonna give my pick real quick for Rakic and Ankalaev.
Oh, did I miss you?
It's all good, but I'll make it quick.
I'm sorry, buddy. Go ahead.
Rakic's only way to win, personally, just because they're in the Abu Dhabi area, he's got to finish Ankalaev. He's not going to win a decision. I'm telling you that right now. And Ankalaev by decision is minus 115. So that's a decent play right there.
Yeah.
Now getting to Chimaev and Whittaker, I've been the biggest Whittaker fan ever since even before he got on his tough season, and then he won it. But I'll say this right now, I think he's going to get taken down, and I think Chimaev's going to finish him. I hope I'm wrong because I'm a big Whittaker guy. And I'll say this, if he survives the first round and a half, after round 2, live bet the hell out of Whittaker. I'm telling you that right now. And it wouldn't shock me if he gets into almost going into the 4th, 5th round. Chimaev doesn't even want to get off the stool if his cardio's done.
Yeah.
So Whittaker could be live late. I like him as a potential live bet. But I'm on Chimaev. I do think he can get the takedown, grab on early. Similar type of takedown to what either Duplessis got or similar one how he got to Holland, where it was pretty much like roly-poly-oly, and then he finally got the back. And it's going to be like one of those type of exchanges. But I actually do like Chimaev by submission plus 250.
Yeah, if he's going to win, it's going to be that way. There's just too many question marks for him coming in for me. And I do apologize that I totally skipped you.
No, it's all good, man.
I'm maybe trying to get through this a little too quickly, but I will slow down, take a breath, and we will go to Joe. Joe, how you see this fight?
I'm on Chimaev as well, although I think in DraftKings you should play both sides. But I'm going to go on Chimaev here. I do agree with what Joey T said is, this could be interesting, like an interesting live betting opportunity. And for those of you that don't know, a lot of the live betting is odds are determined by algorithms, right? Well, I don't know that, like, they should probably turn the algorithm off for this fight because if you're getting like really solid plus money on Whittaker after like a round and a half or 2 rounds, and then you should probably really think about playing Whittaker. I mean, if for no other reason than maybe even to hedge. But like what I would do here is I would take the in the main event and just mix the fighters up in DK lineups. Seriously. Like, and we're somewhat bearing the lead, but like, go Max Whittaker, go Max Chimaev, go Topuria Whittaker, go Topuria Chimaev. Like just take the 2 5-round fights and play both sides in DK.
Yep.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I do think, I'll be honest, I didn't expect both. I expected one Chimaev pick out of you guys. I didn't expect both of you. So that's interesting to me. I do certainly agree that early it could be Chimaev's fight. I would just have to see it first, and I sort of have a rule that if I haven't seen it and you have a lot of question marks, I need to see it first. So we will see if he makes me look foolish. But we will get
Chris. Before we go to the next pick, I can tell you this right now. If Drake was on the show, his pick is Whittaker.
Yeah. I do think I saw that in his picks this week, and I was kind of hoping that I would get some support, but that's all right. I walk a lonely road, the only one that I have ever known. So,
well, Drake is in a land right now where family trees don't fork. So
that's right. Joe has been waiting to get that line in all podcast. Yes. I'm glad that he finally did work it in right before the main event.
Yeah, I mean, they think you're rich if you travel with a suitcase. Let's put it that
way. So, okay, aside from we got the Polish jokes, we got the Tennessee jokes. We are.
By the way, I am Polish, so I'm making fun of myself.
I know, yeah, that is true. That is true. Joe is, or at least he tells us that. Maybe it's just so he can tell the jokes.
No, I'm half Polish and half Italian, which means I could make myself an offer I don't understand.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that is correct. But yeah, having some fun here, but we will move to the main event, which is Illa Topuria at 8,800 taking on Max Blessed Holloway at 7,400. And the line on the main event is Illa minus 260, Max Holloway plus 220. And the only thing I have to say about this fight, well, not the only thing that I have to say, but I feel like I just heard this about Max Holloway, that he was about to get knocked out, and he's not going to be able to handle the power, and X, Y, and Z. And Max Holloway schooled that guy who was a knockout artist up a weight class. So this one, I don't really see it. And I don't, you know what? It's funny because I really take my cues here from the Josh Emmett fight. Now, Illa Topuria ended up dominating Josh Emmett, but there were a lot of exchanges there where he just ended up getting tagged. And when he's in the pocket, he just does not have a lot of defense. Now, you can say that Max Holloway gets hit a lot too, and he does. But a couple of things. One, Max Holloway has shown himself to be insanely durable. We know that. And two, I really thought his defense looked pretty good in the Justin Gaethje fight. Better than we had seen it in the past, certainly. And a lot of Illa Topuria's skill baked in there is the grappling, which we know that Max Holloway has elite takedown defense. We know that even if you do get Max Holloway to the ground, he's going to pop right back up, a la Jose Aldo. So getting any kind of control time on Max Holloway, or certainly even a submission, is something I would have to see to believe. I don't really believe it. I think Max Holloway could really box him up, keep him on the end of the punches there. I don't believe people are disrespecting Max Holloway to this extent again. Maybe since he's going up, the go back down, people don't like that. I understand, but Max Holloway is still elite. Losing to Volk doesn't change that, and I know one guy just knocked out Volk, but Volk was winning that fight before he lost it. So that's something to consider too. I like Max Holloway a lot here. I think you underestimate him at your own peril, and for the price, certainly, I think that he is the one to take. But we will start with Joey here. Joey, how do you see the main event of the evening?
So once I heard this fight got actually announced, I was excited as can be. I was like, all right, we got a firefighter in here, boys. This ain't gonna be no. They're probably both gonna run their mouths, which they clearly have been doing. Yes. Oh yeah, but I know everyone thinks that Topuria is gonna be the first one to knock him out. If it happens, is it gonna be shocking? No, because lately Max has been getting touched. But I think what's gonna happen, he is gonna get his strikes in. I think Topuria is gonna be smart. I think he can take him down. I honestly think he can take him down. Maybe not off the first entry, maybe off like a chain type takedown. He doesn't get the single leg, but he gets the double, takes him down. I actually like Topuria by submission plus 500.
Wow. See, for
and
me,
Max doesn't tap. I think this might be the first time you see Max go to sleep.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
He doesn't have what's his name? That terrible ref here to save him this time. But the one submission we do have, that nasty triangle armbar against Poirier all those years ago. I would think when you read that line, Joey, I thought it was actually a little bit undersold. Because first you have to get Max to the ground, then you have to submit him. So you got two really difficult pieces there. I would honestly be looking for a little bit more than plus 500, but I understand. I understand the take. Certainly, Topuria is an elite grappler, but I just think Max is going to withstand it. But let's see what Joe thinks. Joe, how you see the main event?
Well, before that quick baseball update,
sure.
We're in the bottom of the fifth inning, and the game is less than an hour old.
Yeah.
In the World Series, there's been 4 total hits in the game, 3 of them by the Yankees, and only one. Garrett Cole is one hitting the Dodgers. And it's bottom of the fifth, 1 out. Wow. Okay, so I don't think I could be more polar opposite than what Joey just gave you, because I'm also going to give you my hot take. Not only do I like Max by finish, plus 500. So you're getting plus 500 on the sub. I'm getting plus 500 on the TKO. I think it might be a TKO versus KO, because I think Max is going to land his usual assortment of strikes over 5 rounds and just kind of wear him down, and the ref will stop in because Topuria is taking way too much damage. So that's my hot take. That's my pick. I like Max. I think Max is a very safe play in cash on DraftKings at his price point. Even if he loses, he's going to put up some points. And if he wins, the sky's the limit. So I like Max in cash. Yeah, I'll have a lineup or two with Topuria. I think I told you guys my strategy here would be to mix and match the main and the co-main, and just mix those fighters around. So that's what I would do. But I like Max here. I mean, it's so impressed me what what he did in his last fight against Gaethje. That was just such a cool fight. It's going to be like one of my all-time favorite fights. I mean, normally my favorite fighters are guys that use cardio as a weapon, like Merab and Fluffy. But like, Max is just a pure joy to see. I mean, that fight against Calvin Kattar, I mean, was absolutely amazing. And you could see Calvin's face at the end of that fight. I mean, the way he just beat on everybody else other than Volkanovski. So I think he's just happy he's not fighting Volkanovski here. So I am on Max here.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was driving at before. Just an elite fighter we've only really seen not be able to solve one guy. And I even though he beat him, I think it is fair to say that Topuria doesn't have the craft that a guy like Volkanovski does. He gets by with some other tools that I don't think are going to work that well against Max, but we will see how the main event ends. But that is the end of the card, folks. So thank you so much for tuning in. But before we take off here, we are going to go with hot takes. Joe kind of spoiled one for us, but I will throw it over to Joey. If you have a hot take for us, and everybody in the chat, if you don't know how this works, we take a line that we think is kind of juiced, that we think the odds makers are not giving too much credit to, and we recommend it as something that will come in at a much higher rate. So if you have them in the chat, by all means, put them in now as we give ours. And now I'll go to Joey. Do you have a hot take for us, sir?
I do. I like Bruno Ferreira, round 1 knockout plus 400.
Yeah, that's a good one. We talked about that fight a little bit before. Definitely think the powerhouse. I mean, the guy only has round 1 finishes, so if he's going to do it, may as well do it there. I do think he gets it done. I do agree with you. But Joe, do you have anything else besides the Max, or do you want to expand?
No, I got Max by finish plus 500.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. And I do think you explained that pretty well, and definitely see the merits of that one too. I am going to go ahead and sprinkle in. We've been talking about decision plays here, and I do see a nice and juicy one. It is Robert Whittaker by decision plus 600. I like that a lot because I do think Chimaev is still going to be tough. I think he's going to grit it out to the end. But I just don't think he's going to make it. And if this fight goes into round 3, I'm certainly going to be feeling really good about that one. But we will see how that all plays out in chat. If you guys have any plays for us, drop it in there. I will read them out. Going once, going twice. All right, guys, that is going to be it for us. Thank you so much for watching. Want to thank, as always, Joe Sun Tzu and Joey. Thank you so much for stepping in on short notice for Drake there. Always a pleasure having you, sir. Thanks for the insight. Really great stuff. You can check him out on Drake's podcast. When are we doing that again, Joey?
We usually do that Thursday night. We drop the video.
Okay, so definitely look out for that. And Joey T on Twitter as well. Guys, thank you so much for watching. As I said, really appreciate it. Give this a like, the thumbs up, the subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. We certainly do appreciate all the support and love, and hope that you enjoyed watching the show. We enjoyed having you here, and we will see you for the next pay-per-view. But until then, enjoy the fights, and remember, it's something that we didn't actually touch on. Early morning stateside in Abu Dhabi. So coffee and fights tomorrow morning, especially for us here on the East Coast. Mm-hmm. So with that, we will say goodbye. Thank you all so much, and good luck in your contests.
Peace.